What's up and welcome back to another video. Today I'd like to discuss Hector's Paradise or the Hornet. Two guns very similar in looks, feel, and overall output, but there are plenty of differences beyond the fact that they just look the same and have different elements. Today I went and obtained some standard variants of each item, tested them, did a fair share of research, and now we're going to figure out the Hector's Paradise or the Hornet. Which one is better, and which one do we need to send to Gearbox via a hate letter? I'm going to break it down into a couple of different categories and give points to each weapon based on said categories. Whichever item obviously ends up with more points will end up being the winner of today's video. I don't want to waste anybody's time, so let's just go ahead and jump straight into it. Category number one would be how you get it. The Hornet. I'm sure 90% of the people who clicked on this video today already know how to get this weapon, but if you do not, your best shot will be the very first boss in Borderlands 2, Knuckle Dragger. Other than him, your options would be Hyperius the Invincible. Okay, so his health's bugged in OP10, and sure, he's still killable, but it makes farming him a lot more insufferable, especially compared to, the very first boss in the So yeah, you can get the damn gun from Hyperius, but his loot pool is bigger, and he's just overall a bigger pain in the ass. So farm good old KD here, and no, not Kevin Durant. The Hector's Paradise. So for this one, you'll simply need to get far enough into the Commander Lilith DLC to do the mission called Echoes of the Past, also making it a very easy legendary to obtain. Now that we've got how to obtain the items out of the way, which one do I think is easier to obtain? Well, this is one of the harder categories to decide, as the Hornet is as simple as farming the first boss in the game, while the Commander Lilith DLC can't be played out far enough for the Hector's Paradise until after normal mode, as that's just how the DLC is scaled. All the enemies will be around level 30. So the Hornet is accessible within the first 5 minutes of the game, while the Hector's Paradise is on the more accurate side, 8 or 9 hours into your game at the earliest. But here's the argument. The Hector's Paradise is guaranteed, while the Hornet could take hours upon hours of attempts. While I never really have bad luck with the Hornet, usually getting it at the latest within 20 to 25 runs. Thing is though, I don't want to take into account which one you can get first, as the Hornet will be out-leveled by 15 or so, meaning that just because you can get the Hornet first doesn't exactly mean it's a better item to obtain, as the Hector's Paradise is 100% going to be awarded to you for this quest. And I think for that reason, it's hard to argue that it doesn't need to win this category. And I can already hear an argument in the comment section about farming a quest reward being worse than boss farming already. But the Hector's Paradise has some unique things about it that we will talk about in one of the next categories that make repetitively farming it not such a big deal. But for this first category, if we're basing it off which one is easier to get a perfect variant, taking everything I've discussed into account, for being less repetitive and even simpler of a farm, which like I said we'll get into later, that would make our scoreboard Hector's Paradise 1, the Hornet 0. And for our second category, I'd like to talk about the diversity and overall use across all characters. So the Hornet, in my opinion at least, is one of the best raid weapons in the game. Meaning that not only was it a top tier item before its little stepbrother here came in, but you can make it work across every playable Vault Hunter in Borderlands 2. As for the Hector's Paradise, Shock is super useful as well, and even more so on Gage and Axton, as they can boost shock damage exponentially with the proper builds. But the Hornet remains solid off of just itself alone, without the help of any skills or class mods. They both have the same gimmick. Like all doll pistols, they will be semi-auto at the hip and burst fire when aiming down sights, as well as increased elemental damage, as well as an elemental splash effect, and shooting a 6-round burst when aimed in. They use the exact same skin / texture, appearing the exact same, with the only difference being the color of the element. But for me personally, even though I believe Shock is a super underrated element, I have to give this round to the Hornet for just being a beast on its own. Putting our scoreboard at Hector's Paradise 1, the Hornet won. We are now all tied up going into round number 3, which our third category will be parts. The parts are very important on items in Borderlands 2 as they can boost or decrease the weapon's effectiveness. Neither of the guns you see me using in today's gameplay are perfect by any means either. Whatever I got, I ended up using. I thought this would be the most fair way to test the item, as more than likely, if you go out and farm one of these for yourself, you're more likely to get any other version than the specific perfect one. But if you're wondering what parts to look out for on the Hector's Paradise and the Hornet, you're going to want to look for the matching dog grip on both of them, which I will go ahead and flash up what the dog grip looks like on screen. And if you're wondering what the dog grip looks like on the Hornet, it'll be right here. But now that we got the grip talk out of the way, the Hector's Paradise is locked to have the bayonet attachment and will never spawn with the prefix. And sure, the bayonet makes it nice for Krieg and Zero, but there are still much better options for melee weapons. Overall, the lack of part variation hurts the Hector's Paradise in our ranking today, as it can't spawn with the twin prefix like the Hornet can. Which, if you didn't know, the twin prefix on the Hornet makes it a double shot, much like the double penetrating prefix on the Herald. So, if you're handing me a perfect matching grip Hector's Paradise, or a perfect matching grip Twin Hornet, or a non-perfect variant of either weapon for that matter, it's a no-brainer. I'm taking the Hornet. Easy point for KD's favorite pistol, wrapping our scoreboard up with the Hector's Paradise 1, the Hornet 2. Those are all my categories for today, giving the Hornet the first W in the first episode of the Ore series. You can't go wrong with it, even though it can be a repetitive farm. For a lot of us, it's a comfort farm too. We've done it so many times, what could another 10 knuckle dragger kills hurt? And that's just about going to wrap it up for today, guys. What do you think? If handed a perfect version of both, with the one you don't pick being thrown off the map, which one are you picking? Please let me know in the comments below. Or if you have any interesting item face-offs that you'd like to see in the future, I'd also be heavily interested to hear them as well. But yeah, that's really it for me today, guys. Please smash the like button and subscribe if you guys are new. I post new Borderlands videos every Friday and Sunday, and please stay tuned for Sunday. I've got a very interesting video planned. I think you all just might like it. Please give me a follow on Twitter if you haven't, and I love you all to death. Please stay safe out there, and with that, I will see you all in the next one.